Gay versus African immigrant situation. And I think that it's been a conversation that's been overdue. I made a video a couple of weeks ago, and I talked and they bash Black Americans, and they think that a lot of what they have accomplished since 1964, when the United States allowed them to come here because of civil rights that was passed through the work of Black Americans, they were allowed to come through here without sponsorship from white people. See, Essence Fest came down to connecting with the readers, connecting with the subscribers. How many African immigrants subscribe to Essence magazine versus how many foundational Black Americans subscribe to Essence magazine? Because it was started by 4 foundational Black American men. Before the internet became popular, Black American magazines were how we communicated with each other. We understood the vibe, the culture, the trends. We all communicated with each other through Essence, Ebony, and G. Along with Nikki Taylor too. Nikki Taylor did a great job too, being the face of Essence. She's Caribbean, but she found a way to balance out all of our multicultural representations as the diaspora. I said, who is more successful in the United States between Black Americans and African immigrants? And it said that when comparing Black Americans who are U.S. born and African immigrants in the United States, research generally indicates that African immigrants tend to have a higher socioeconomic attainment, particularly in terms of education and certain economic indicators. So let's break it down. Socioeconomic. That means that there's certain socializations, behaviors that they have, and there are certain economic behaviors that they have, that they are now becoming a more successful group of Black people here in the United States. Now, of course, 60 years with a combination of a lot of these immigrants that come over here, it can never outperform what cotton provided the United States through the free labor of Black Americans, through foundational Black Americans. I always say that, okay? Because cotton allowed the United States to become that nation that everybody wanted to come to. Without cotton, the United States would not be where it's at today. This is the free labor of Black people. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm not going to disagree with what AI said. You know why I'm going to say that? Because I want to make sure that I make a point. It says that one of the first reasons on why Africans that immigrate into the United States are doing much better than Black Americans, you know, it doesn't even mention women. It doesn't even mention anything about African women. It says it's because close to 45% of Black African immigrant men, they hold at least a bachelor's degree, which is significantly higher than U.S. born Black American men. Okay? I didn't say this. These are statistics. They are pulling this from statistics. Okay? Family structure. Black African immigrants tend to have a higher marriage rate and are less likely to live in multi-generational households compared to U.S. born Black Americans, which can influence household income. Okay, I'm gonna say something on that too. To me, I don't see a lot of Black African immigrant men that come here to the United States. I don't see them living with their mama. Now, you're gonna catch a FBA living with his mama well over into his 50s. Okay? Got children, owe the government money for child support, in arrears, dying alone in nursing homes. I don't see African men dying alone in nursing homes. I just don't. Another reason why: labor force participation. Now, the old trope of African Black Americans lazy. It says their labor force participation. African immigrants generally have a higher labor force participation rate and employment rates in the U.S. in comparison to U.S. born Americans. Our black men back in the day, they were the carpenters, they were the electricians, they were the brick masons. Okay, Africans contribute significantly to the U.S. economy through their earnings, taxes, and spending power. They are particularly active in the healthcare industry and STEM. Now, black Americans, now I will say this, we're still holding it down in the medical field. We still have the HBCUs. We're still, a lot of African immigrants do attend HBCUs. A lot of African immigrants do get into the STEM field through HBCUs. Let's not forget about that. But I think that what is happening is it's the division of the black family. See, their strength is in numbers. Now, I told you that they said that 45% of black African immigrant men hold a bachelor's degree. They never said anything about an African woman. But the statistics on our side is this. I looked it up. It says the Pew Research said that in 2023, and these are all the same Pew Research, okay? 2023, approximately only 23.6% of black men are from 25 years and older are holding at least a bachelor's degree in comparison to 45% of African men. Now that's a shame. You know why? Because we have HBCUs. What's the problem? What's the problem? And this is another reason why. We are the majority of the black. They are the minority of the minority. That's the problem. You know, I never see a lot of African men getting on social media putting down their African women. Nope. I don't. And also too, it talked about marriage. Let me tell you where we're at right now. According to the Pew Research, approximately 52% of African immigrant adults in the U.S. are married. Approximately 30% of black adults in the United States are currently married. It says this is lower than the overall marriage rate of all Americans.
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say
what?
That's bad. That's bad. That's not good. And black men are more likely to marry than black women, and that's because they marry more outside of their race. It says black women are more likely to be divorced, separated, or widowed. And because black women tend to marry black men more, and they tend not to marry out of their race, it is because black men in America have a lower education rate, just like we just saw in those statistics. We're not making comparisons to white Americans. We're making comparisons to ourselves and to African immigrants. Now, something is wrong. Attributes to that. Not having a job, just one person carrying them bills in that house. Because this is what it said. Because it said the African man here, he carrying them bills. But it said the black American man, he ain't carrying no bill. Now you can argue, you can make a rebuttal. Rebut the Pew Research Center first, then come to me. The African immigrant, who is the minority of the entire black group here in the United States, is beating us out by 22% in marriage. My God, today. 54% of white adults in the United States are married. 46% of Hispanics are married in the United States. The highest is of Asian Americans in the United States. Now, I also asked Google and AI, I also wanted to know, even though we have our problems, but there's also a flip side to this, okay? And that is, yes, African immigrants do well here in the United States. However, I found out that only a certain percentage of them are able to come over here from Africa.
Your entire country is a failure. Your entire country is a failed state, which is the reason why you had to leave in the first place, right? So if we want to talk about success here, there, or anywhere, you already come from a lineage of failure, right? A lineage of people who cannot figure out basic infrastructure and who literally blames everybody else for their failures except themselves. Do you even know how to industrialize your resources? Would you even know how to make manufacturing plants and how to distribute products around the world? Like, would that even help the average everyday citizen from your country? Because I'm not really seeing too much progression. I'm really just seeing a lot of pointing the fingers and then coming over here and then trying to compare your top 10% to our bottom 10%. Like, comparing your top 10% to somebody else's bottom 10% is not the flex that you think it is, sis. Like, and that's what y'all tend to do, because you don't want to, you fail to mention the fact that there's a whole vetting process. At least as far as I'm concerned, there's a process that they don't just let anybody over here, especially not from African nations. I know they don't just let anybody over here. So like the Yahoo boys and the thugs and the scammers and all of that, they keeping them over there where y'all at. So they're not letting any and everybody over here, because you're not comparing apples to apples. You're not coming over here comparing doctors to doctors, lawyers to lawyers, nurses to nurses, because we got all of that too. We got business owners too. But you want to come over here, throw shade, compare yourself to the lowest level of society, trailer park white people, ghetto projects black people.
How long here? 1 Earth Day. 1 Earth Day.
Knowing damn well that is not the reality for the vast majority of Americans.
And so I thought about this. We are the minority in the United States, while they are the majority over the continent of Africa, okay? One of the largest continents. So I asked, how much ownership does Native Africans have over the continent of Africa? It says that in 19 sub-Saharan African countries studied, indigenous peoples and local communities own or control approximately 16% of the land. There's over 50-something countries in Africa, okay? See, it only counts for Africa's richest 4. We know who the richest 4 is going to be. One of them is going to be Nigeria. Ownership do Black Americans have in the United States in 2025? It says that according to several factors contribute to understanding Black American ownership in the U.S. in 2025. Our overall wealth. It says that as of the third quarter of 2024, Black Americans collectively held approximately $5.39 trillion in wealth. Based on the Henley and Partners and New World Wealth's 2024 Africa Wealth Report, the total investable wealth held on the African continent in the third quarter of 2024 is approximately $2.5 trillion. Y'all need to back up. Y'all need to back up, because we hold now overall wealth for Black people just in the United States is $2.5 trillion. With our low marriage rates, with our lazy folks, I'm telling y'all what y'all not doing over there. Because for y'all to have 54 countries and only have 2.5 trillion, while Black Americans are the minority here, and we was held down for 500 years, and yet our overall wealth in the United States is at 5.39 trillion. Same time spans, same time span. I'm not playing no tricks. You go right to AI, Pew Research, and also too, it says that you can go to Henley, LEY, I'm gonna plug it in, and Partners and New World Wealth 2024. Same thing with here. It says that the overall wealth for Black Americans, this is 2024, as of the third quarter, same thing, it was the third quarter in 2024 for Africa. Third quarter of 2024 for Black Americans, we have 5.39. So that means that 5.39 trillion minus 2.5 in the whole entire continent. Y'all, stop playing. Stop playing. 2.89. Y'all own Africa. What is going on over there?
What the hell? What the hell? What the hell y'all say?
Why do y'all only have 2.5 trillion in collective wealth as Black people in Africa? And we have 5.39 trillion in wealth over here in the United States. And we lazy. We not getting married to each other. See, that's what I'm saying. Even with this whole Essence Festival, what it has done is it has opened up another nuance to what has been going on for so many years. And I'm not gonna say I agree with everything he says, but I'm gonna have to give Tariq Nasheed his flowers. Foundational Black Americans, we got a lot of wealth, things that need to happen.
Did y'all just hear that Africa said that they are included in African Americans reparations? So apparently Africa and the African Union this 2025, they basically told America that they are leading the that they are leading the cause for reparations for African countries and people affected by slavery. So basically, they found out that African Americans have 1.7 trillion in spending power, right? That means collectively, we got the bag. Collectively, we got the bag. That of which we already knew. We didn't have to shout it from the rooftops, and we damn sure didn't need anybody else clocking our bag. And now it's at the point where the African Union is working with America and top American officials to both colonize the African American culture, but also to receive reparations. Did you know that they have now, the African Union have now been in talks with America about us, African Americans, being their property? Back when Big Pooh with the Loose said that he was going to pew pew America, and I told y'all, oh, don't worry, they sending boats around to come pick us up. That was why. Remember when I said that they consider us Africa's property? That was why. That was why them boats was going to be here. Because they consider us Africa's property, which means that Africa and the African Union is now fighting America for our fucking reparations that they didn't even help.
Finally, this is the reason why I think that we need to start collectively getting on our policymakers. Like, it's too far gone with Trump. You know, they still up there trying to make things move and shake with Trump being in office. It's too far gone. They didn't pass that big beautiful bill that's going to wreck a lot of people's lives, so that's spilled milk. But all I'm concerned about is our future and our children's future and our grandchildren's future, and so on and so on. So it's time that we start forming a league of our own that will have political power, whether it be under Tariq Nasheed or someone that's already elected as an official that actually has influential power. I'm not talking about the gift of gab. I'm not talking about being a personality. I'm talking about someone who actually knows the law and knows international law. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, this is not going to be pretty. This is not going to be pretty. Because see, a lot of these Africans, they are so desperate. Even today, they're still selling slaves today. In 2025, there was just an interview the other day online that I saw where a man who has his consciousness is seared. He says, well, it's just what it is. So they're still selling humans to this day. So do you think I would want to trust my livelihood, my ancestors' inheritance that they left for us into the hands of people that are still practicing modern slavery to this day? No, I don't think so. Let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe. I would encourage everybody, start writing letters, start visiting your congressmen, start visiting your senators, and start rallying and advocating for our policies that protect us as foundational Black Americans. Whether you become a lobbyist or if you run for office yourself. But we do collectively need to start doing something now, because that is a lot of money that they want to cipher from us. Please like, share, subscribe.